I got to show you something very exciting. Step out into the yard today, and I find this little item. It's got a good look. It's got some ridges on it. It's got some dirt. It's got a little bit of, nature to it, a little spice. What is this? That's a little baby mango. See this tree behind me, right to my left? Perhaps you're right if you're looking at it. I don't know which way it comes out. It's a mango tree. So you know spring has sprung when the mango tree starts to come into bloom. There may come a point where I'm gonna have to look up and scan right above me, because those mangoes, man, they get big and they get juicy and they get ripe and they can fall right on your head. You know, back here technically is a parking spot. You see behind that fence, but I don't like to park back there because a mango to the windshield could really, make you call your insurance. I'll put it that way. But these mangoes, for anyone watching this who lives in a more northern climate where you don't have mango trees, you can find the juiciest mangoes on just a tree in a yard. I used to live at a different house with some buddies of mine a couple of years ago, and there was a mango tree that was on like public property across the way from ours. There was a little corner that was, just kind of sidewalk adjacent, right? And all these, folks would pull up in pickup trucks during mango season, and they would just like harvest these mangoes. There's so many on these trees when they bloom. It's actually insane. There's hundreds of mangoes, and the hard part is getting them, on the ground. So this one's not ripe yet, obviously. They get, they're big. You've seen a mango. They get bigger. But if they hit the ground and they split open, probably don't want that one. And then even if they don't split open, the fruit flies are going to come for it, and they're going to bzz, 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 because they're looking for a meal too. That's just the nature of nature. And so it can be tough to catch the mangoes at the appropriate moment. Either you got to do what those folks used to do when they'd get ladders and they would harvest the mangoes directly, or you could, this tree you couldn't really climb. You can climb that part of it, but to actually get up and harvest those mangoes is a big job. The other mango tree, you could actually climb up into that one. One time we went to get barbecue, and we had a couple beers in us. It was a Friday, and we went back to the house, me and some buddies, and I forget if I don't know that I was climbing a tree. I might have been filming, but one of my friends climbs up in the mango tree. He went really far up high, got a mango. We brought some indoors, but that taste, it's obvious because they're fresh, fresh off the vine, fresh off the leaf branch. But the juiciest flavor you can imagine in these mangoes. It's really unbelievable. You take a bite of a fresh, like, backyard grown mango, and you're just like, oh, you got the juices all over your face, but you just can't contain yourself. It's unbelievably good, tasty. That's the fruit of the earth right there, coming straight from the earth. Anything you can grow yourself. Where I'm from, up north, my parents still they grow some like herbs and tomatoes by the side of the house. I'm not really a tomato guy. I'll eat it, but as like a standalone fruit, because tomato is a fruit, I believe, I don't find that I necessarily like if a burger has a slice of tomato on it, I'm not going to request to be taken off, but I'm also not the biggest fan of it. But even those tomatoes, the little ones we would grow, they were so good. You could tell it wasn't from a store. You could tell it was straight from the yard, straight from the earth. Life in a lot of ways, which is silly, life is like a video game. Video games are like a reflection of life, and a lot of young men nowadays kind of hide in video games, play them all day long. There's some things like COD Zombies. I don't know how much of a reflection of real life that is. Those were a lot of fun back in the day. But you take some kind of open world game, and you're like harvesting resources and going on quests and going on adventures, dude. Just try AdventureMaxxing in real life. You won't regret it. Let me tell you won't regret it. There's so much juice out there. You can go to a mango tree or a tomato and you can harvest it. You can go, if a mango tree is on public property and a mango falls and it's not in someone's yard, that's your mango. So you can actually go scavenge mangoes. You can collect resources, eat them, add them to your meals, add vibrancy and spice to your life instead of sitting on a couch. Many such cases. Study the local biome. Maybe you can find some just tasty berries in your area. Go harvesting berries or go apple picking or something. I'll tell you what, conversation I had with a friend years ago sort of related to this, and I had a different perspective then than I do now. So we were driving around town catching up. I hadn't seen him in a little while, and I was asking, yo, how's things in New York? He lives in New York. And he was like, yeah, it's a lot of fun, but like I hang out with my friends all the time, but I just spend all my bread. And he's like, how are things down here? And I was like, little cheaper, but just hanging out with the fellas, going out, whatever. We were both single at the time, and I think he has a girl now. I know I have a girl now. And he was like, mutually, we were like, yo, I wish there was more activities that we could get into, that we could do, but like, it's kind of gay to go apple picking with your buddies. But like, is it though? If you guys are just going on like a little quest, you're like, let's get some apples, and you just, maybe you have a couple brews beforehand, you just walk around the orchard like a bunch of goons, siphoning apples from trees, just siphoning, Me and my friends, we went and picked mangoes. It was a spur of the moment thing. If we planned it, would have been a little sus mentally. But really though, is it though? The range of activities that you can get into is not so limited as we delude ourselves into believing. There's actually a tremendous amount of exciting, new, novel ideas that you can like get into, that you can participate in, that you don't need anyone's even permission for, dude. Like a lot of folks, when I was in college, I spent a lot of time, again, kind of hanging out with the boys, playing Fortnite. That was when that came out, and that was still a big deal. Hanging out, parties, apartments, whatever. But one time, it was early in the year because it got cold in the winters up there. We went and we hiked, and we just hiked around this little state forest. They had and play it, but they had like beach volleyball out there, like a beach volleyball court, even though it was in the forest, inland. And just walking around these beautiful woods. It was early in the year. I think we were catching up on how everyone's summer was. Hadn't seen everyone in a little while. And really just having a ball, having a day. These are the adventures, activities you can go on. That's still very fresh in my mind. I remember walking around that forest, walking across a bridge in the woods, and a beautiful crystal clear stream flowed underneath it. And again, we're catching up on summer plans. The sun was warm that day. It was a beautiful, beautiful day out. And you know how it is up north. You appreciate beautiful days a little bit more. I'm in Florida now. I appreciate beautiful days. We got one here right now, but up north, when you only get it a couple months a year, oh my God, it's unbelievable. It's like, you just feel that energy just soaking into you from every level. So, people, I think, need to treat life more like a game, dude. They treat it like a grave responsibility. Or people say, I have to do this, I have to do that. Like, God forbid, there's people who are like, I didn't ask to be born. This cruel world. This cruel world. Get out of your head, dude. Come on. There's so much juice, joy, laughter in the world. And I recognize that not everyone's lucky. People come from difficult situations. Not everything comes easy. But dude, the most rewarding Hell, the most rewarding games are not easy. Think about the things that you keep coming back to in your life. Those are the things that you do need to put a little extra effort, a little extra work into. Those are the things that it's addicting to keep coming back to. Let's say, well, I can get a little bit better this time. I can get a little bit better this time, and just keep pushing yourself to that next level. Those are the really enticing moments of life. Are those little breakthroughs when you've been working at something and cracking at it, and finally it's like, oh, I can actually do this a little bit now. Don't let me get hot. That's in the mind. It's like, don't let me get hot. We're chilling. We're cooking. Think of all the little adventures you can go on. I talk all the time about adventuremaxxing because I believe that's a very core tenet of how man should live. But think of all just the little things you can do, all those little in-between moments you can add a little spice, add a little adventure to, These are like side quests. People say, you need to be going on side quests. You do sort of need to be going on side quests. That could be learning a new skill. That could be, trying new food is a pretty basic one, but like it could be that, or making a new recipe, learning to cook could be a side quest. Exploring the world around you could be a little side quest. People crave social interaction nowadays more than ever in a world where everything is so digital. You're on your phones. Geez, let me tell you this, and I don't know if it's true. I can't verify it if it's true or not, but the beautiful woman just called me mid-video. Hilarious. But anyways, so the beautiful woman's friend was in town, who was like her cousin, basically. And it was this girl and her friend, and we met up with them for dinner during the week. And they were talking about college. They were talking about how they like it and whatever. And they were asking me, because I happened to college at the same school they're at now, and they were like, when you were in school, like, did the guys like walk up to the girls and try to meet new people? It's, yeah, dude, obviously you want to meet new people, right? I'm not saying it was always free. You don't always want to talk to new people. I mean, hell, I'm at the gym, I probably don't want to talk to new people. I just want to focus. But they were like, it's really rare. It's really rare. It's like people are their friends from outside of class, like, and they were like, was it like that? And I'm thinking, is it this new generation, these younger kids who have spent a lot of time on screens? If you grew up during COVID, a little bit younger, than myself, or people really not talking to each other and meeting new people, or is this entirely cap that I'm hearing about right now? And part of me thinks it's cap. Part of me thinks it's just cap, and chicks being weird or whatever. But I don't know. But it does speak to a truism nowadays that people just seem to be afraid to talk to new people. They seem to be afraid to talk to new people. It seems to be an anxiety in the younger generation when it comes to meeting new folks. So it could be a little challenge. It could be a little adventure to just strike up a conversation with someone new each day. What about that? What about something that builds your skills into a social domain? That's a little fun adventure. If you can build that over time, if you can make that happen, that's a skill that can never be taken away, even as everything becomes more robotic and more AI dominated nowadays. That man-to-man, that personal communication, that's the juice, that's the key. You can already use, these artificial intelligence services to, code projects and do all this stuff that, hell, I was working on one the other day and it works. It's probably not good, but it's like, damn, dude, like, I made that and I don't know jack about coding. But we don't yet have that machinery that can actually create and foster human social interaction. So maybe that's something, maybe that's an adventure you can go on, is just striking up a conversation. Maybe that's something that you can actually do. There's so many things, right? There's so many things. There's so many skills to learn. There's so many new domains. Think about it. If you think about life in this way, if you gamify it, it becomes a little more interesting. And the stakes get lower. People put so much emphasis on, oh my God, I have to do this, I have to do that, otherwise, thoughts, you know? It's all stupid and irrelevant. What you should do is just treat it like a game. Well, today's like a new level. How can I be the best version? How can I beat my previous high score? Like, if you ever played RuneScape, dude, growing up, you remember that there's all these different skills you can train. Me and my buddies in elementary school, we would like literally, we would meet up in the morning before classes started because we were in the same class, and we'd say like, all right, tonight on RuneScape, we're gonna like do this quest, or like I'm gonna train this skill or whatever, and then we'd go home and do that, and then we'd come back in the morning and we'd like recap, you know. We'd obviously, we'd be messaging each other too on it, but that was a very funny time. It was just like, you know, training different skills and stuff. But then you grow up, you get to a certain point, and it's like, I have to like go to class, I have to go to college, or I have to do this, or I have to do that. It's like, dude, don't you realize that's the perfect opportunity to train your skills and unlock new things, unlock new whatever? Like, if you think about it, when you level up in RuneScape, dude, you would get to a certain level and you would unlock the ability to do new things. Like, if you leveled up your like wood cutting, you could now cut new trees. Like, what if you decided, I'm gonna level up my auto mechanicing? And you take a look at your car, and you take a look at some YouTube videos, and then before you know it, instead of having to bring in your car for an oil change, you can just do it yourself. What if you leveled up your knowledge of, like, I don't know, eBay or something, or gardening? That's a good one. You know, you suddenly have a beautiful garden around your house, or even if you live in an apartment, you have a little garden on your porch. If you level up your entrepreneurship, your eBay, whatever, maybe you start flipping some stuff, reselling, you get a little taste, you get a little juice out of that. Like, there's so much fun shit you can do. There's that guy who turned, like, he flipped some like item, and there's a YouTube, you can probably look this up in the YouTube search bar if I remember it, but like, he took some just totally irrelevant item, like a nail or like an empty can. It's not sponsored, by the way. It's Alainu. It's an energy drink. Found it in my fridge. Apparently it's got vitamins B6 and B12 in it, but, and I admit it's probably got a bunch of other junk in it. It's not good for you, but maybe it doesn't. It tastes good. It tastes good. I actually like it. But the guy started by flipping like a can of like some totally irrelevant item, and ended up by the end of the challenge like with a house in Canada. It was like a $200,000 house, and he was literally trading item for item. But like, that's a fun little journey and quest, and people don't do shit like that anymore, dude. Like, they just don't gamify anything. Hell, forget about anymore. People have rarely done that in history. Most people are just very like, it's not bad, but focus. You know, go to the office, come back, do this, do that. They never try anything new. They never explore any hobbies. They live just small lives. And in a world, in this digital age where you can really just get as much stimulation as you want from scrolling your phone, or from watching movies, or, you know, food is at your fingertips. You just order DoorDash or something. Like, you end up without any excitement and any adventure, and you end up in this state of stagnation, which is horrible. It's terrible, and it craters the mental health of so many folks out there, dude. They're not meeting anybody, they're not going out, they're not doing anything. You see charts like that say that the age of marriage is getting later, and stuff like that. Part of me doesn't believe it. I mean, the age of marriage one, I do believe, but they'll say like 90% of 26-year-olds haven't had sex in the last year. Maybe, you know, I don't know. I haven't met those people, but maybe those people do exist, and they're just like in their enclaves, and they never go out and do anything. That's why it's just bizarre, you know? So you need to be going on adventures. You need to be just, really what an adventure is at the end of the day, at its most basic sensibility, is just going out and challenging yourself. just challenging yourself to do something new and different. Just a challenge. Go out. If meeting people's a challenge for you, then you see a sign for a yard sale in your neighborhood, just go show up at the yard sale and say, like, what's up? You know, just say what's going on. If it's a challenge for you to meet people, go to a local bar. If you don't drink, you don't got to drink. Maybe you get a beer, and just sit by yourself and eat a meal. It's actually a really nice experience. It's very pleasant. If you're creatively challenged or financially challenged, go online and figure out a way to make a buck. You know, if public speaking challenges you, maybe start a YouTube channel and just start talking to an audience without that extended pressure. Or if you just want an adventure, dude, go find a trail or a hike near you and go out there and really explore the world and immerse yourself in it. You know, we get stuck in our heads with these things when we're constantly overstimulating our phones and the digital whatever. We get very thought focused. But when you're actually out on the quest, all you are is in the moment. You're like, you know, it's like they say when skydiving, which I've never done. That's an adventure I never want to do. Too many things can go wrong in my mind. But they say when you're skydiving or doing a similar high adrenaline activity, you're just like so focused and so in the zone that like all the problems like blah, blah, blah. Like I ski. You get a version of that when you're skiing. Like when you're going down the mountain and you're just left and right with powder. Just imagine a perfect ski day. You really don't have time to think about anything else. Like I have to do this later, or I want to do that, or I didn't do this, or I got to text that person back. Like, nah, dude, you're just doing the powder, and you're a little uncomfortable maybe because it's cold out, but then you're really just thinking like, I got to get back to lodge right now. But you're not thinking of any other BS, any other crap. Your mind is not. It doesn't have room to just wander in these negative, doubtful areas that it finds itself in when you're sat stagnant. So that's a little taste of what you can get on any adventure. That's why I always say Adventure Max, because if you don't have that joy, that exploration, that play in your life, then you will stagnate and you're gonna just let these doubtful thoughts in, and it's terrible. It's a terrible existence, a terrible way to live. Mental health crises at an all-time high right now, and it's because people have forgotten that the real world is the true place where you can actually go out and quest an adventure and cultivate your lore and become an interesting person, a person worth knowing, blah, blah, blah. Everyone gets in their own heads about, I gotta do this and I gotta do that, and maybe I'm not good enough, and blah, blah, blah. Well, if you haven't cultivated yourself as a person, how are you going to do any of that? So step one is step out the front door and go on a quest, go on an adventure. Adventure max your life, because life is like a video game where you can do anything. It's open world. You can even do, I don't condone or recommend doing, illegal stuff, but in the video game of life, you'll just pay the consequences for it, Nothing's off the table. Don't interpret this the wrong way, folks, but you can do whatever you want in life. You really can do whatever you want in life. Nothing's stopping you. You have this ambulatory motion. If you don't, sorry, but if you're blessed enough to have this level of ambulatory motion where you can go around and navigate the world on your own, then you do have what it takes to go do exciting things and live a life full of adventure, full of vision, full of quests, full of lore, rich lore. So do it. Treat life like a video game. That's the simplest way to live vibrantly.